Welcome back, and this is episode 2 of the NL East W.A.R. report. It's me, your boy, at Syd Slide Park. You can find me on Twitter there. Me, Syd. I'm here with my co-host Dante. How you doing, my brother?
I'm solid, bro. I'm solid, bro. Once again, like you said, back with the NL East World Report. And as usual, people, make sure, please, we know you're listening. We see you here. If you're on the Patreon, you paid to see us. We love it. I appreciate it.
It's good,
But
gang.
make sure you're following the Barbers Chair Net on Twitter and IG at Barbers Chair Net. Subscribe to the Barbers Chair Network Patreon if you are not already subscribed at Patreon backslash Barbers Chair Network, and visit the bcnet.com for all of our content. We have a lot of great content, a lot of great events coming up. The NFL season is coming up, so we got a lot of great things coming your way. And as usual, we have more great baseball content for you. So, let's kick off this episode like we do all the time, bro. One second time, update the division standings. As not much of an update, but a
It's
little
bad.
bit, yeah.
It's bad.
The space is starting to get there. The Braves are once again still in first place at 46-26. The Miami Marlins are 10 games above 500 for the first time in damn near a decade. Well, over a decade actually. But they're
2001
5 game
or 2011.
2011. But they are 5 games back. The Philadelphia Phillies are 38-34, 8 games back. The mighty New York Metropolitans, 33-38, 12 and a half games back. It's crazy to read that out loud. 12 and a half games back. And the Washington Nationals, like we say, they're just, we're trying to find some things out. 27-43, 18 games back. So it's starting as we head toward All-Star break. All-Star is next month. That picture's starting to get a little clearer. And I don't know
Yes
about
and
that mad
no.
dash to the finish. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So my hang up here is, of course, the Mets, and it bothers me that the NL East is so cluttered because I'm finding ways to tell myself there's a way, there's a way, there's a way. Like you get to the trade deadline, maybe Scherzer and Verlander start to look okay. Maybe they trade for a pitcher from Detroit. Maybe they do something like that and then overtake the Phillies and then somehow sneak away into a wild card. I never want to think it's over, even when it's over. Just there's just so much money spent on that team. Like it can't end like this. Like it will, but
Very,
it can't.
yeah, very, very true. There's a lot of money spent. That's one way to look at it. But also, a lot of those deals, even when they were signed, we said they were good deals because baseball is one of those sports where you don't really look at the money like that.
No.
But but we all said, hey, we're kind of rolling the dice here. Verlander's a little older.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right.
even with Scherzer, he's performed, but he's getting there up in age. So there were some risks. There were some win now, definitely some win now intentions with those dollars being spent. So
I
I
will say,
understand why you don't want to do that, but
right. I will say though, would I do it again? Sure. Like I
yeah,
think that
it's not our money. Fuck it.
right. It's never my money. I don't care. Like I don't care about luxury tax. That means those numbers aren't real. Do I think when you look at the structure of a team and you say, hey, what does this team have to do to get better? Get the best pitchers on the market. They did it. Get support in right field, left field. They did it. They needed a shortstop. They got one. So like, whatever. Like,
Yeah,
I'll live with a bad season, I guess.
yeah, that's right. But no, let's get into this division, man. But like we said, speaking of doing everything to get better, a team that's really clicking on all cylinders right now. Getting hot right at the perfect time because the rest of the division is actually scorching. This is one of the hottest divisions in baseball, even with
Except for one.
even with the Mets and Nats dragging us down right now. But the Atlanta Braves, man, the Braves are what 6-2. They were 6-2 last week. They won 5 in a row. Two of the last three series, they had two of the weaker teams in the National League coming to town. So they really just came and took care of business, what you're supposed to do at home. But
Right.
one thing I really loved about seeing what I saw in these series, Michael Harris has been on fire. I know I criticized him last episode. Well, I wouldn't even say criticize. I just asked, he has been struggling. It was their cause for concern. But over the last 7, man, slashing
He seen the Mets
556.
and got right.
Yeah,
That's what happened.
slashing 556, 536, 963, 15 hits, 3 home runs, 8 runs, bro. Over his last 15, he's hitting 404, slashing 417, slugging 684. So really getting a lot of extra base hits, man. Really putting the bat on the ball, barreling shit up. So that's what you really want to see from a guy who is already giving you Gold Glove defense out there in center field.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about this team, as great as Ronnie Acuna is, you never want to get into, and the Braves never have had this happen, but you never want to get into the Mike Trout where your superstar is performing, and he's getting no support. And with the Braves, they've always surrounded him with talent. And a guy like Mike being able to come back in the form from what you saw last year, from what you saw during that Rookie of the Year season, that's something that's going to be very important. We talked about Austin Riley last week heating up. So it's just been a piece by piece thing with them. And so,
And even Rosario looks good. Like,
yeah.
as
You were shaky about that last week when I said that, but yes,
right.
Eddie has been performing, bro.
As Ozuna has kind of cooled down a little bit, Rosario, uh, he's he's starting to heat up. So like,
Yeah.
yeah,
They've always had that plug and play with with left
right.
field, even when last year, who do they have? They let him go. What's his name? The
Um,
outfielder, Adam Duvall.
yeah, him and Grossman.
Yeah,
They
so
traded from the Tigers. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So they've really had a platoon effect. They even had not Travis Durno, Travis, the other Travis, Black Travis. They called him up a few times. They
Oh,
ended
I know
up
who you're talking about. I can't think of his name.
Travis Demeritte. So
Yeah.
it was been a lot of plug and play in left field, but a guy like Eddie bringing some consistency with everything you getting from center field and right field.
Mm-hmm.
That's just icing on the cake, and that's the thing about this lineup. There are no holes, man. Like it's
Um,
more of it's where do you find a spot?
right. So that was my next question for you. What beats this team?
If I'm honest with you, really, it's really like it would have to be one of those. I hate to say it, but like teams that like just get extremely hot at the end of the year, especially their pitching. It would have to be one of those
Ooh,
teams. It
okay.
would have to be one of those teams. If you can come in there and you have two really good starters that can, well, at least an ace that can go that game 1, game 4, game 7. Because with this team, 4 runs is not going to beat the Atlanta Braves. On a good night, 5 to 6 runs is not going to beat the Atlanta Braves.
Right.
So you have to have the type of pitching that can shut down that lineup too. And when you say shut down that lineup, it's can you give up 4 runs and your offense go out and get 5 or 6?
So
And there aren't too many teams that are built like that.
So I will propose something to you here. Not saying it's going to happen, but let's say one Miami Marlins team may get into a wild card spot and maybe ends up playing the Braves somehow. I'm I'm not a Marlins guy. But I am as a lot of Marlins fans like to say, I am a Marlin. Like I'm all in. I'm all in on the Marlins.
Okay.
5-2 in the last week. Won 4 straight, 2 to 3 last series. And then one thing to how they flip things around, it seems, they are 18-5 in 1-run games in the year 2023. That is leading the MLB. Last year, 40 losses in 1-run games in 2022. That to me, that sounds very grit and grind and let the pitching do its thing. And then we have a Cy Young guy there who hasn't looked great, but maybe he has 2 or 3 good starts coming into the playoffs, and we're looking at Sandy Alcantara versus Spencer Strider in a game 1, 4, or 7.
You make a compelling point. You make a very compelling point, especially with the Marlins. Like we said, they're one of those teams that every 4 or 5 years, they go on a run. But you're seeing them put together, some quality wins and really beat some good ball clubs. And like you said, they've won four straight, bro. And the schedule coming up is light, so they'll be able to maintain a pace
Hmm.
with the Braves. And as far as beating the Braves, I still don't see it. I still don't see it because the one thing about the Braves, I think they have no fear of the Miami Marlins. Like even if the Marlins got hot, it would never be a point where the Braves would go in there and be like, "Oh shit, we gotta face Sandy. We gotta." No, that's just not gonna happen. Like
Last year happened though.
yeah, but that's why I say Arthur goes out and makes a move for more pitching
Right.
because like they have to. They can't rely
I
on the
mean,
arms
that's
that
the
they
key
have.
to playoff success always. Arms,
Yeah,
arms, arms. Like you,
yeah,
it's an arms race. That's what the playoffs are. They're arms races.
yeah.
Whether people want to say that in the actual war perspective or the actual like baseball perspective, the best arms tend to win the playoffs. Or the best arms pitching the best tend to win the playoffs, as we saw with the Houston Astros and they're all sub one ERA guys minus Justin Verlander. So I think the Marlins are an interesting club, and then Jorge Soler. Um,
I
he's looked
like
good.
Jorge, man. I
I,
like Jorge,
he is
and
responsible for favorite, um, my favorite World Series moment ever. Him hitting
oh,
that ball
that bomb.
when he hit that ball.
That I mean, because that's probably. I'll say this only because I'm a little older, even though I'm sure you saw it too. But that's up there with the Pujols home run
Yeah.
when it used to be called Minute Maid Stadium. Like
Yes.
it's one of those moments, and because that was the World Series, you may have to rank it higher. But the Pujols bomb, where you just really take the air out of a building, like
Yeah.
one of those moments. And for Soler to do it in the biggest moment, it was crazy. And that's another guy who, like, when you're out on the field, watch him take batting practice, like he's just like flicking balls into the
Really.
outfield. Like it's just like light work because he's another player who he could go play wide receiver for the Dolphins tomorrow if he wanted to. Like he's that type of build, and so he's hitting missiles. And so you saw him do it in Kansas City. Everybody asked, was it a fluke? He came to the Braves. He didn't put up the same power numbers, but he was still like obviously instrumental in the winning the World Series.
Right.
And so the Marlins are set up to have that type of success in the postseason, but it's just a matter of can you do that against the Braves 4 times in the 7 games? Can
And
you get that perfect chemistry that, like you said, that grit and grind? We got to small ball it out against a team that can go just put up 4 runs in the inning. That's off, off a
right.
whim.
And then Soler plus this one guy who casually went 5 for 5 with the RBIs and one home run, hitting 390. He Luis Arias, Mister Efficiency, like the baseball's Kevin Durant. Like who I don't know. I have belief in the Marlins that if I see this team win a World Series, I will not puke. That is how I feel about them. I will I will not be furious that they win a World Series.
I mean, if they were to make that type of run, it would just be par for the course. It would just like, okay, the Marlins did it again.
Hmm.
It would literally be this is what the Marlins do, which would be insane with the way the different ownership groups have had the same mentality with their franchise, where it's
Hmm.
just win something, strip it, win it, strip it. But yet somehow they still manage to round up enough talent to go on these runs where they do things like this. So
Right.
I
And
mean,
then Jazz Chisholm, of course.
yeah, Jazz is he that's a guy who, man, I just want to see him stay healthy for an extended period of time so he can really go on a run.
All the
Like
time.
just
All the time.
really, just really, if really go on a run to establish himself and let people see, okay, now this guy's for real.
Yeah.
Because the talent is there, the work ethic is there, and like we say, people don't try to get hurt. Shout out to Zoe Votto. Welcome back. He just hit a home run.
Daddy, I just watched him play the other day
Yeah,
in Louisville. He was
yeah,
yeah, he was here.
You know, yeah, he just hit one. They just crowned, put the little Viking hat on. But nah, man, you you raise an interesting point. It's
I mean, I don't know if I
we're too
believe it
deep into the
myself.
season, but we're
Right,
too. I'll
right,
say this:
right.
we're too deep into the season to say that this is just like a fluke. We're it
Right.
was
I agree. Like I think
72
a lot of
games.
these teams are what they are. Like
Yeah,
I
it's just a matter. Can it be sustained? Like
right. Or what can you do to push yourself over the top?
yeah, because they
Because
can make a move.
right, the Marlins will probably be buyers, and we have not seen this Marlins franchise or this version of the Marlins franchise be buyers yet. Um, yeah, we just haven't seen them be buyers yet, and because of that, we don't know what they're going to do. I mean, obviously, you can add arms, but you could add a power bat. Add you could add someone in the utility spots. They have guys who consistently kill it in different parts of the field for them. They have John Birdie who can play almost anywhere in the infield. You have you have oh no, they just got rid of or not just got rid of. He left in the offseason. Aguilar. He's
Yeah,
one of my favorite guys of all time. And then Kim Ning. I'm interested to see what she does as the person leading this ship because
yeah,
she's made a lot of really tough decisions this year, last year, since her tenure has started, and they've been good. That's I yeah, she's fantastic. So I'm very interested to see what it looks like when they finally put this whole ship together and when they can get healthy.
absolutely, bro. So let's keep it rolling. The third team in this division, which is actually the hottest team in the division right now. But
What,
it's
14
one of
out of
those
15 for them?
14 out of 15, 7-1 last week. They won six straight. It's Philadelphia Phillies.
Gross.
And we talked about them. We kind of had a where do they go from here conversation with them, and here we are. We said 72 games, still a lot of baseball left, but it's time to really, make a move. If you're gonna make a move,
Right.
four games above 500. It's unfortunate when you look around the entire National League. Like if some of these teams were in other divisions, they would, be leading those divisions or, in a much better playoff standing. But where do you think the Phillies go? Like, what do you think? Like, how do you maximize this? Because, like you said, they're scorching right now, but with over 100 games left, you're not going to continue to play like this.
Right. I think it's about starting pitcher consistency for them. Um, let me bring up some Zach Wheeler stats. I was just looking at Bryce Harper, who's hitting around 296 right now. But nobody really likes batting average just
So, I'm
by
saying, what's he slugging? Not Bryce. I don't care about his batting average.
yeah. I mean, what is Bryce slugging? Bryce Harper is slugging 367 in the last seven. On the last
Okay.
15, 350.
A little
Last
slumpy.
30, 372.
Oh, he's slumping. Okay, it's
Yeah,
all right.
not
Yeah.
Bryce Harper esque, but
Mhm.
Bryce Harper spent 150 days on the shelf before he came back from Tommy John surgery. So Bryce Harper probably gets a pass on a lot of
Yeah.
on a lot of what he would be normally doing. But right now, as we are looking at Zach Wheeler, 3.4 ERA. He's pitched around 88 innings so far, led up 38 runs, 34 earned runs, and 5 home runs, 98 strikeouts to 20 walks. So, even though the ERA is looking a little for Zach, this is a pretty good year so far. His whip is 1.1, 98 Ks. His home ERA is 2.93. So he's pitching way better at home than he is on the road, as people tend to do if you're not the Colorado Rockies. Um, and then you have Aaron Nola, who 6-5, 4.66 ERA, 110 WHIP, 3.92 at home. Yeah, I mean this staff is only going to go as far as their starting pitching takes them. Ranger Suarez, I would like I thought he'd be a guy who would take the jump. He is not pitching well at home this year. 6.92 ERA at home, while his season stats he's 3.82 ERA, 35 Ks, and 1.33 WHIP. So I think they just need to buy arms, and then Taiwan Walker, our MLB
Yeah.
bro,
Yes.
two
My
point
guy.
two five at home. I love Taiwan. 4.31 overall, 1.28 WHIP. But talk to us about the numbers there for what makes Taiwan so special.
Yeah. And so like when I got a chance to talk to Ty last year, he talked about learning a new grip on his splitter. And it was a pitch that was in his arsenal, but he wasn't using it as much. And last year was his second most used pitch. This year it's his most used pitch. So that was actually interesting to see. And the batting average is 237 against it. The slugging is 297.
Mhm.
Last year hitters were only hitting 188 against that pitch most of the season. So interesting to see, the volume has increased. So naturally you've seen the batting average against an increase, but players aren't slugging it. Now, what I did notice, he added a sweeper, which a lot of pitchers have done for,
It's the year of
this
the
is,
sweeper. I don't know
yeah,
what it is, but everyone
it,
loves the sweeper this year.
but what I noticed with Ty's sweeper, and this is insane, is that people are barely hitting. First of all, he's only throwing about they say he's throwing like 70. So he's rarely thrown it. So it's like number 5 in his arsenal. But when he
Mhm.
has thrown it, the few times it's gotten hit, it's gotten smoked. Like the batting average against is only 188, but the slugging is 750.
That's oh
So you,
god.
you rarely see that wide
Yeah,
a gap. So
I can see why he doesn't throw it a lot.
yeah,
That's
the few times it's gotten hit, it's gotten touched up. And so I know another guy like Lance Lynn, he talked about it and how he stopped throwing it because he wasn't really, commanding it. Even though he had 16 strikeouts the other day.
right.
But we've seen him lose control of that sweeper and it just hangs over the plate. And in today's game, you hang that,
You hang
it's
anything over
curtains.
the plate, these guys
Yeah.
are they're
Yeah.
sending them to the next major city.
It's curtains, but seeing him tinker with it and just having it in his arsenal, and like you said, he's given up a lot of runs on the road, but been solid for the Phillies at home. And
Right.
if they are going to make a run, that's somebody they're definitely going to need to continue to do that because last year we saw the magic in that ballpark when they were at home, and the
Mhm.
way when those fans got behind that ball club. So you're going to need them to continue to do that at home and continue to have Ty eat innings and. Like I said, we always knock pitcher win loss record, but he's sitting at 7-3. It's kind of like the other season when he was with the Mets. When you looked up, he was random like 8-4 or some shit.
Yeah, I
When,
think he had
when,
like a
when,
like a 12 or 15 win season one of the
yeah,
times.
when everybody was hurt, when he really
Yeah,
he really held it
say
down.
his split finger change like that
Yep,
that was like his go-to pitch, and that
yep,
and the splitter, and I love watching Ty pitch, like one of my favorite pitchers to watch.
yeah. No, definitely. Now I know lately these guys probably have not been your favorite to watch. Your New York Metropolitans, man.
Right.
2-4 last week. I'll let you get into the meat of this, but I'll just go real quick. 2-4 last week. Lost 2 straight. Did get a little bit of good news, but what's going on up there, man, in Queens?
Well, let's start with the good news. The good news is there's a new series. We are playing against a team that seems to be struggling right now in the Houston Astros. Uh, Max Scherzer is on the bump tonight. He's actually looked decent so far. It's still a 0-0 game. But Pete Alonso did come back from the IR after 11 days when the original diagnosis was 3 to 4 weeks. So good for Pete. I don't know if that's going to what that's going to look like. I know he went 0-4 in the first game he came back from, and he was chasing a little bit outside of the zone, and you know probably just getting your footing back and everything. And it's like I'm not going to be worried about Pete Alonso. One bright spot, Tommy Pham,
Yeah,
MLB bro.
yeah, he is.
Okay, yeah, Tommy
Yeah.
Pham. Last 15, through 47, 6 doubles, 1 triple, 5 home runs, and an 809 OPS. And anytime Tommy Pham is hitting the ball, he's hitting the ball hard as hell. Um, so he's been a bright spot, but we are not good right now. Like just a bad ball club, like making fundamental mistakes and making fielding mistakes. We're seeing fielding mistakes from Lindor that we normally don't see. We're seeing a lot of fumbled balls. We're just seeing a lot of bad baseball.
Yeah.
We lost a series to the Cardinals for God's sakes. Like the Cardinals aren't playing good baseball either. And the one win was a walk off, Brandon Nimmo walk off. It just it doesn't look like the magic is there for the Mets this year. But later, later in this podcast series, we will be able to talk about what they can do to improve.
Yeah.
And then Mark Viento sent back down or back up to Syracuse. He wasn't producing. He's a rookie. He's probably just soon to be traded. Best wishes to Mark. I love watching him play. So I hope he ends up in the right spot eventually, so that he can get the reps that he needs.
Yeah, bro. Definitely. Definitely. Like I said, it's you never say never, but it's just it might be time to say never with the Mets. I don't know what it is. It's usually always like this when as much as I hate it because I love when owners spend money. Like I love it. Throw as much money at as many players as you want to. I give your fan base what they want. People want to see you go out there and attempt to acquire the best talent possible. But at the same time, that always doesn't guarantee wins. You would think it does, but it doesn't. And before we go into our last team, I just wanted to ask you, how much do you think of how much is on the manager? Like, is it something that you could see them potentially making a change, or is it just something that's way too early and we got to give it time?
Um, so I'm kind of 50-50 on this. I think the things that we applaud Buck Showalter teams for, you know, kind of being crisp teams that know the rules and are always heads up and kind of proactive in what they do. That just hasn't been the vibe of this team. That it's so many things seem unprepared. There's so many unforced base running blunders and things like that. I don't think that is Buck Showalter's fault, but I do think it gets to a point where someone has to say something to someone about it. Um, and they've talked about players only meetings or players and manager only meetings or things like that on June 19th. That's a little rough, but I don't think Buck Showalter should be fired. I do think other places on the coaching staff maybe should be taken a look at. Maybe hitting coach, maybe pitching coach. You never know uh, what things look like until they get there. And so I'm not gonna say let's throw gasoline on a fire. Well, not yet. Um, I think these guys are smart enough, are old enough, being the oldest team in the league, to say like, hey, what do we need to put together so that we can be a productive team together? And I don't think a manager's doing that. I think a manager can encourage it, but I think this is on the guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, but I will say this. One thing we have seen in today's just modern sports landscape, a lot of these owners that spend a lot of money don't like losing, and they will make drastic changes. Sometimes they're rational changes, sometimes the incorrect change, just because they have the money to fucking do it, and they can pay a guy to go sit at home.
Right.
So I agree. Buck is a guy that you gets high praise around the league. Every time I talk to Ron Washington, he says, Buck, you know how Buck's team are gonna come. You know what they're gonna do. He said they're gonna come. Like you said, that's why it's been so just unexpected to see the Mets playing the way that they've been playing lately. So, that's something that we're gonna have to really keep a close keep a close eye on going forward,
Right.
and we'll see what happens, bro. But our last team in the division, we don't have much on them. 2-5 in the last week, lost three straight. Still really struggling. Uh, Washington Nationals. Like I said, the only thing I'm really trying to see right now is who do they trade, who do they keep. What pieces they keep. I think the better he plays. I think Jameer is candidate to get up out of there. I think there's going to be a playoff team that can use his services. So that's a guy who, while he's fun to watch, he's fun to be there in Washington with those young guys. I don't think he's a long term solution there
No.
any way, shape, or form. So that's going to be one guy I think is going to be interesting to see going forward. CJ has struggled at short, bro, and it's shocking because he, is such a really good athlete. So
Right. And,
you know,
I think so much of it is about place. Like, CJ is good. Like, we saw him be good in San Diego. Um, it's one of those unfortunate things where like guys who probably thrive, like like he went from being in a place where he's bringing in or taking in so much knowledge from like all these guys in the diamond around him to now being the guy who has all the experience to hand out. um and that's tough because his tenure was not very long in the majors before he was traded. But that's someone has to be at the bottom, unfortunately.
yeah, and this sucks, bro. I always talk about this in every sport, but when young guys, especially talented guys, are given a chance to develop in winning cultures as opposed to losing cultures. Don't get me wrong, the Padres haven't, always been winners and they aren't that good this year. But that's given the opportunity to grow around that type of talent as opposed to going to a team where now they're trying to see if you are a guy for the future. It's not a situation where you can really talk to a couple of vets, but he can go over to Manny Machado. You know what I'm saying? Even though Fernando is older, he's a superstar player. He can go. He can go talk to him. Go talk to Soto. Those type of guys. When they had Cruz, those type of guys who could really give him a little input about the game. And so now going to this squad, it's different. So that that maturation process is a lot different. And so you hope he doesn't get swept up in that. And it's still a lot of time.
Hey,
Still
Vogel
we're
back home run.
extremely young. Hey, that's y'all guy. Still young, and we'll see where he goes with that, bro. But before we get up out of here, we gotta update the NL East War Board.
Let's
Every
talk about
week,
it.
let's talk about it. Like we said, starting from number 10, like we always do. Down 3 spots from last week. Your boy Brandon Nemo, he's at 1.9. At number 9, also your boy, but he was out, so I don't really fault him for falling. Pete Alonso, he held steady at 2. You know,
Hmm.
uh, new entry this week at 8, JT Realmuto. He's at 2.1.
Okay.
Uh, down 1 spot from last week. We just talked about him, Jameer. He's at 2.2. Another new entry this week, also at 2.2, Ozzy Albies. Ozzy's played really well. He saw, you see, I see Snick is trusting him again because Snick has him back up to number 2 in the lineup.
Hmm.
So, protecting the
Ronnie.
MVP, Ronnie Acuna.
Right.
So, we love that. Number 5, Josiah Gray. He's down 1 spot. He's at 2.3.
Good for
Number
him.
4, number 4, holding steady, Sean Murphy at a 2.5.
Oh, the top four Braves, they have to be, right? Yeah, that makes sense.
Three of the top 4 Braves. Number 3, up 5 spots, Orlando Arcia. He's at 2.5.
I'm never gonna hear the end of that.
He's at 2.5. You see a utility infielder get the starting spot and play the way he's played.
He can have his little year, whatever.
Yeah. It's a,
he,
it's, it's a year. It's a
he can
year.
he can have his year, whatever.
I might have said, I'm sure, like Kike Hernandez had a year. Like everybody has a year,
Right.
but
He can have his little year, whatever.
yeah,
Take it.
everybody has a year. Like I said, Luis down there in Miami going crazy. He stayed at number 2. He's at 2.7, and actually up 1%, 1 point from last week. He's up to 3.6. The leader, Ronnie Acuna Jr., Mr. Baseball man, Mr. Everything, doing it all.
He's so good.
It's
He's
really
so
is.
good.
His defensive war is out of the negative now. Don't look now, folks. I don't know what you want the man to fucking do, but he does it all. But man,
I love
that is all we got.
people wrong.
Yeah, definitely. That is all we got for y'all this week. Episode 2 of the NL East W.A.R. War Report. I am your host, Dante, my co-host, Syd. We thank you once again for coming to talk to us. coming to talk baseball with us, man. We appreciate it. Give us your comments. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. Anything you want to hear about, let us know. If you're a Washington Nationals fan, let us know what you want to hear because we don't know what to say. So,
Please, please, more national fans.
so
Like
please tap in with us, man.
I talk to
Please.
Nationals players more than I talk to Nationals fans. Like this is
Yeah.
tough.
So whatever you want to talk about, man, let us know. But that's all we got. We'll be back with you next week. Y'all be safe. Take it easy.
Be easy, y'all.